The shipyard was unlike anything Marcus had ever imagined. Massive biomechanical structures grew through space like metallic coral reefs, connected by flowing streams of what looked like liquid light. Dozens of ships in various stages of construction hung in the zero-gravity environment, tended by creatures that seemed to be part machine, part plant, and part something else entirely. "Welcome to Synthesis Point 7, Zaraketh Voss said as their shuttle approached the docking structure, one of the hegemony's primary naval construction facilities. Marcus pressed his face to the shuttle's viewport, watching the incredible dance of construction happening around them. Ships grew rather than being built, their hulls expanding and shaping themselves while swarms of biomechanical workers added components and systems. "How long does it take to grow a ship?" he asked. "For a standard frigate, approximately 43 galactic days. Larger vessels require proportionally more time." "And how often do they break down?" "Catastrophic failure occurs in roughly 1% of vessels within their first operational year. Minor malfunctions are more common." Marcus did some quick math in his head. "So, if you're producing hundreds of ships per year across all your shipyards, you've got dozens of broken vessels at any given time." "Correct. And right now you fix them by scrapping the broken parts and growing replacements, when possible. Some failures are too complex for that approach." "What happens then?" Zaraketh Voss was quiet for a moment. "Total loss. The vessel is recycled for raw materials." Marcus felt his engineer's soul cry out at the waist. "You throw away entire spaceships because you can't fix them?" "We recover what materials we can." "That's insane." "Some of those problems could probably be fixed with basic troubleshooting and improvised repairs." "Perhaps. That is what you are here to determine." The shuttle docked with a structure that felt more like entering a living creature than boarding a space station. The walls pulsed gently with their own heartbeat, and the air smelled of ozone and something organic that Marcus couldn't identify. Voss led him through corridors lined with viewing windows that looked out onto the construction bays. Marcus found himself stopping repeatedly to stare at the incredible engineering happening outside. "Focus, Marcus Chun," Zaraketh Voss said after he'd paused for the third time in 5 minutes. "You will have ample opportunity to study our construction methods later." "This is incredible," Marcus said. "How do you control the growth process? How do you ensure structural integrity as the ship develops? What happens if there's an error in the biological programming?" "Those are all excellent questions that you may explore after you have completed your primary assignment." She brought him to what she called the maintenance sector, a vast space filled with ships in various states of disrepair. Some were obviously damaged, with hull breaches and missing sections. Others looked perfectly intact but floated dead in space, their bioluminescent panels dark and lifeless. "Your workspace," she announced. Marcus whistled low. "How many broken ships are in here?" "Currently 73 vessels awaiting maintenance, ranging from minor system failures to catastrophic damage." "And you want me to fix them all?" "I want you to demonstrate whether human repair techniques can be applied to our technology. If successful, you will train a team of specialists in your methods." Marcus walked to the observation deck railing and looked out at the disabled fleet. "And if I can't fix them?" "Then you will have provided valuable data about the limitations of human engineering capabilities." "Right, no pressure." A biomechanical platform descended to meet them, its surface adapting itself to provide seating for 2 passengers. As they rode out into the maintenance bay, Marcus got a closer look at the disabled vessels. "That one," he said, pointing to a mid-sized ship whose hull was covered in what looked like crystalline growths. "What happened to it?" "Viral infection of the biomechanical systems. The ship began producing redundant structures until it could no longer maintain power to essential systems." "You mean it got sick?" "In a sense, yes. And your solution was to scrap it?" "We attempted to purge the infection, but the virus had integrated too deeply into the ship's biological components. Further intervention risked spreading the infection to other vessels." Marcus studied the crystalline growths. They were beautiful in their own way, creating intricate geometric patterns across the ship's hull. What if you don't try to purge the infection? I do not understand. What if instead of fighting the virus, you work with it? Redirect its growth patterns, use its energy for something productive? Zaraketh Voss looked at him sharply. You would deliberately maintain a viral infection. We do it all the time with biological systems on Earth, symbiotic relationships, controlled infections that provide benefits. Your ship's got extra energy going into crystal production. Maybe that energy could be redirected into enhanced sensor arrays or improved shielding. That is... She paused. That is not how we approach viral infections. How do you approach them? Elimination, purification, restoration to original specifications. Right, you try to make it like it was before. But what if broken doesn't mean useless? What if it means different? The platform brought them to the infected ship's docking port. Marcus could feel the vessel's biomechanical systems humming with uncontrolled energy as soon as they stepped aboard. Show me the infection vector, he said. Zaraketh Voss led him to what had once been the ship's main engineering space. It was now a cathedral of crystal growths with geometric structures that pulsed with their own inner light. The formations were undeniably beautiful, but Marcus could see how they were interfering with the ship's essential systems. The virus appears to be converting biomechanical tissue into crystalline matrix, Zaraketh Voss explained. The crystals are metabolically active but serve no function. Marcus walked among the crystal formations, occasionally reaching out to touch their surfaces. They were warm and seemed to respond to contact with subtle changes in luminosity. They're not just metabolically active, he said. They're processing information. What? Marcus found a terminal that was partially overgrown with crystals and managed to access its diagnostic systems. Look at this. The crystals aren't destroying the ship's computer systems. They're augmenting them. Zaraketh Voss moved to his shoulder to read the display. That is impossible. The diagnostic shows computational capacity 300% above baseline. Your virus isn't a virus, Marcus said excitedly. It's an upgrade. The ship is evolving. Evolution is not a guided process. This is random mutation. Is it? Or is this what the ship's biological components naturally do when they're given enough energy and time? Maybe your perfect ships are actually being held back from reaching their full potential. Marcus spent the next 6 hours crawling through the infected ship's systems, mapping the crystal growths and analyzing their impact on ship functions. What he found amazed him. The crystals are creating redundant computational pathways, he explained to Zaraketh Voss as they reviewed his findings. Instead of one central computer, the ship now has a distributed processing network. It's faster, more resilient, and capable of handling much more complex calculations. But it is not functioning according to specifications. Because your specifications are wrong? This ship isn't broken. It's better. Better? Look at these readings. Enhanced sensor range, improved reaction time, increased processing capacity. The only reason the ship shut down is because its power systems couldn't handle the increased demand from the crystals. So it is still broken. Marcus grinned. No, it's just hungry. We need to feed it more power. It took 2 days to rig a supplementary power source using components cannibalized from 3 other broken ships. Marcus worked with a team of biomechanical technicians, who seemed both fascinated and horrified by his willingness to mix and match parts from completely different vessel types. This power coupling was designed for atmospheric processors, one of them pointed out as Marcus connected it to the infected ship's main energy grid. And now it's going to power a crystal matrix computer, Marcus replied. Sometimes the best solution is the one that shouldn't work but does anyway. When he brought the supplementary power online, the infected ship came alive in ways that surprised everyone. The crystal formations blazed with light, and the ship's sensors immediately began detecting things that the shipyard's other vessels had missed entirely. What is it seeing? Zaraketh Voss asked, studying the sensor readings. Subspace fluctuations, microscopic gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic signatures that are barely above background noise, Marcus said. This ship has become the most sensitive sensor platform in your fleet. Word of Marcus's success spread through the shipyard within hours. By the end of the week, he had a team of volunteers eager to learn his unconventional repair methods. The key, he explained to a group of biomechanical engineers, is to stop thinking about broken as a binary state. Systems can be damaged but still functional. They can be non-standard but still useful. Sometimes the best repair is to work with the damage instead of fighting it. He demonstrated with a frigate whose biological hull had been partially crystallized by exposure to exotic radiation. Instead of replacing the affected sections, Marcus showed them how to use the crystallized areas as natural armor. Marcus spent the next hour pacing in his quarters, alternately packing and unpacking the same few personal items, while his mind raced through increasingly desperate escape plans. None of them had any realistic chance of success. Kepler Station was 3 months from the nearest colony, and even if he could somehow steal a shuttle, he'd die of old age before reaching help. Captain Rodriguez knocked on his door as Marcus was staring at a photo of his sister's family back on Earth. "How are you holding up, Chun?" Marcus looked up from the photograph. "I've been better, sir." Hard to process that I'm apparently being sold into space slavery by a beautiful alien who talks like she's doing me a favor. Rodriguez stepped into the small room and closed the door behind him. "Marcus, I want you to know that if there was anything we could do to stop this, we would. But that ship out there, our sensors can't even figure out what it's made of, let alone how it works." "I know, Captain." "You don't have to apologize for not starting a war with a technologically superior alien civilization. Still feels like we're abandoning you." Marcus managed a weak smile. "You're not abandoning me. You're making the smart play. If she wanted to hurt any of us, we'd already be dead. At least this way, the station stays operational and everyone else gets to go home when their tours are up. Doesn't make it right? No, it doesn't. But sometimes right doesn't matter as much as practical." Marcus folded the photograph and tucked it into his small travel bag alongside a few tools, his tablet, and a spare uniform. "Has anyone been able to figure out anything useful about her or that ship?" Rodriguez shook his head. "It's like trying to analyze something from a dream. Yamamoto says the ship doesn't register on half our sensors, and the ones that do pick it up give readings that contradict each other. As for the woman herself, he trailed off. "What?" "Okafor ran the security footage through every database we have. Facial recognition, body language analysis, even tried to match her vocal patterns to known. Species, nothing. It's like she doesn't exist in any record we have access to." "Maybe. That's because we don't have access to the right records, maybe, or maybe she's something new even by galactic standards." Rodriguez clasped Marcus on the shoulder. "Look, Chun, I know this is asking a lot, but try to learn everything you can about them. About their technology, their civilization, their capabilities. If you ever get a chance to get word back to Earth, You want me to be a spy? I want you to be what you've always been. A guy who pays attention to how things work and figures out ways to fix them when they break. Except now, the thing that might need fixing is humanity's place in the galaxy." Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility settle on his shoulders like lead. "No pressure." "None at all," Rodriguez said with a dry smile. "Just the fate of our entire species." When Zara Kethvos returned to collect him, she was accompanied by 2 other aliens. These were clearly different species from her, shorter and broader, with skin like polished obsidian and 4 arms each. They moved with military precision and watched Marcus with unblinking orange eyes. "Your escort," Zara Kethvos explained, noting Marcus's attention to her companions. "They will ensure your safe transfer to my vessel." "Safe transfer?" Marcus muttered. "Right." The walk to the docking bay felt longer than usual, past familiar corridors and through sections of the station where he'd spent countless hours keeping systems running. His crewmates stood at attention along the route, an informal honor guard seeing him off to an uncertain future communications. Officer Yamamoto pressed something small into his hand as he passed her. Audio log, she whispered. So you don't forget us? Security Chief Okafor simply nodded respectfully. But Marcus could see the frustration in the man's eyes at being unable to protect a member of his crew. Captain Rodriguez waited at the docking bay entrance. Good luck, Chen, and remember what we talked about. Yes, sir. Marcus turned to take one last look at Kepler Station, his home for the past 3 years. It wasn't much to look at, just a collection of habitation modules, laboratories, and industrial equipment connected by corridors that always smelled faintly of recycled air and engine coolant. But it was home, and he'd kept it running against all odds. An impressive feat of improvisation, Zaraketh said, following his gaze. Your species built this entire facility using materials intended for completely different purposes. We make do with what we have. Yes, I have observed this trait repeatedly in human settlements. It is one of the reasons your people are so valuable. They passed through the docking collar into her ship, and Marcus felt like he was entering another universe. The corridors were wide and curved, with walls that seemed to shift color subtly as they walked. The lighting came from everywhere and nowhere, soft and natural despite being obviously artificial. Bioluminescent paneling, Zaraketh explained, noticing his attention to the walls. More efficient than your chemical light sources. Bioluminescent? You mean it's alive? Everything on this ship is alive to some extent. It is grown rather than built. Marcus stopped walking. The entire ship is biological? Biomechanical hybrid, to be precise. It is more efficient than purely mechanical systems and capable of self-repair. Self-repair? Marcus couldn't hide his excitement despite his circumstances. How does that work? What happens when something breaks down completely? What's the power source for the biological components? How do you handle incompatibilities between living and mechanical systems? Zaraketh smiled. There is the human curiosity I was told to expect. You are more interested in how our ship functions than in your own situation. I'm plenty worried about my situation, Marcus said. But if I'm going to be stuck here, I might as well understand how things work. She led him through a series of corridors to what she called his accommodation space. It was larger than his quarters on the station, with walls that curved organically and furniture that seemed to have grown from the floor. A large window provided a view of the stars, which were moving in a way that suggested they were already traveling faster than light. When did we leave? Marcus asked. Several minutes ago. We are currently traveling at approximately 47 times your light speed. Marcus felt his knees go weak. 47 times light speed? That's impossible. Nothing can travel faster than light. Nothing can travel faster than light through normal space. We are not currently in normal space. Where are we? In translation between dimensional layers. Your human physics has begun to theorize about such things, but you lack the technology to observe them directly. Marcus sank into what he assumed was a chair. The furniture adjusted itself to support him perfectly, which was both comfortable and deeply unsettling. How long until we reach wherever we're going? Approximately 18 standard galactic days. Our destination is a shipyard facility where you will begin your new duties. And what exactly are those duties? Zaraketh settled into her own chair, which formed itself to accommodate her tall frame. You will maintain and repair vessels in my fleet. Currently, I control 17 ships of various configurations. Maintenance is handled by automated systems, but automation cannot address novel problems or unusual failures. And you think I can? I know you can. I have observed your work for months. Marcus leaned forward. Zara, can I ask you something? And I want an honest answer. You may ask. I will determine whether to answer honestly. Why is repair work so rare in your civilization? I mean, you've got incredible technology, ships that can grow themselves faster than light travel. Why don't you have people who can fix things? Zaraketh was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus had the impression she was choosing her words carefully. Most species develop technology in predictable patterns. They create systems that are efficient, reliable, and standardized. When such systems fail, they are replaced rather than repaired. But But occasionally, a species develops differently. They create solutions using whatever materials are available. They modify existing systems to perform functions they were never designed for. They repair broken devices using parts from completely unrelated equipment. Marcus nodded. We call that making do. Your phrase is inadequate. What you call making do requires a form of creative thinking that most species either never develop or abandon. Early in their technological advancement, I still don't understand why that's so rare. Zarakathvos stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the impossible colors of faster-than-light space. Consider this. What happens when a species develops reliable technology? They become dependent on it? They become comfortable with it. They design systems that work properly and rarely fail. When failures do occur, the systems are replaced with identical units. There is no need for improvisation because the original design was adequate. Marcus began to see where she was going with this. But humans developed in an environment where our technology was always inadequate. Precisely. Your species spent thousands of years using tools and devices that were barely sufficient for their intended purposes. You learned to modify, adapt, and repair because the alternative was failure and death. And most other species didn't have that experience. Most other species developed either very slowly, with each technological advancement being perfected before the next was attempted, or very quickly, leaping directly from primitive stat. Marcus Chun had always imagined first contact would involve formal diplomatic meetings, universal translators, and carefully worded treaties. He never expected it to happen while he was elbow-deep in the guts of a broken water recycler on Kepler Station, wearing nothing but a grease-stained jumpsuit and a string of creative curses. The transport ship materialized out of nowhere, its sleek silver hull reflecting the distant stars as it docked with the station's outer ring. No warning signals, no communication attempts, no identification codes. One moment the docking bay was empty. The next, it contained a vessel that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of liquid mercury. Marcus was still lying under the recycler when the station's emergency klaxons began wailing. He rolled out from beneath the machinery, wiping hydraulic fluid from his hands, and peered through the maintenance bay's small porthole. The mysterious ship sat there like a sleeping predator, its surface rippling occasionally as if it were alive. Shun, get to the command center now. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the intercom, tight with tension. We have visitors. Marcus grabbed his toolkit and jogged through the station's narrow corridors, past the hydroponics bays and crew quarters, until he reached the central command deck. The space was buzzing with activity as the skeleton crew of 12 scrambled to understand what had just happened. No response to any hailing frequencies, reported Communications Officer Yamamoto, her fingers dancing across her console. Whatever that ship is, it's not using any communication protocols we recognize. Weapons? Asked Rodriguez. Scanning now, replied Security Chief Okafor. I'm not detecting any obvious weapon signatures. But honestly, with technology that advanced, they could probably turn us into space dust with their waste recyclers. Through the command center's main view screen, they watched as a section of the alien vessel seemed to simply dissolve, creating an opening that glowed with soft blue light. A figure emerged, floating across the vacuum between the ships without any visible propulsion or protective suit. Marcus blinked hard, certain he was hallucinating. The figure was humanoid but clearly not human. Even from this distance, he could see the graceful, elongated proportions. The way the being moved through space as if swimming through water rather than drifting through vacuum. Captain, Yamamoto's voice had dropped to a whisper. They're requesting permission to board. They're what now? I'm getting a transmission. Text only, but it's in perfect English. They want to come aboard to meet with our primary maintenance specialist. She looked up from her console, confused. Why would they want to meet with engineering? All eyes turned to Marcus. He was the only qualified maintenance engineer on the station, responsible for keeping their life support, power systems, and water recyclers functioning in the middle of nowhere. 3 months' travel from the nearest Earth colony. Me? Marcus pointed to himself, looking around the room for confirmation that everyone else was thinking the same thing he was. They want to meet with me? Apparently so, Rodriguez said, stroking his gray beard. Marcus, you're our most essential crew member. If something happens to you, we're all dead anyway. But if something happens to any of us, you can keep this bucket of bolts running until rescue arrives. That's oddly comforting, Captain. What I'm saying is, if they wanted to hurt us, they'd have done it already. And if they specifically want to meet with you, maybe we should let them. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Sir, I'm not a diplomat. I fix things. I turn wrenches and curse at stubborn machinery. I don't do first contact. Today you do. The alien being entered through the main docking port 20 minutes later. Marcus waited in the station's small conference room, having hastily changed into his cleanest uniform and attempted to scrub the grease from under his fingernails. His hands were shaking slightly, and he couldn't tell if it was from caffeine withdrawal or pure terror when the door slid open. Marcus found himself face to face with something that redefined his understanding of beauty. She was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and pale blue depending on the angle of the light. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, defying gravity as it moved around her shoulders. Her eyes were large and expressive, colored like deep ocean water, and her features were both alien and hauntingly familiar. But what struck Marcus most was her expression of absolute confidence. She moved into the room like she owned it, like she owned the entire station, like she owned the space between stars themselves. You are the one who maintains this facility, she said. Her voice was melodic but carried an undertone of unquestionable authority. She spoke English perfectly, though her accent was like nothing Marcus had ever heard. Yes, ma'am. I'm Marcus Chun, Chief Maintenance Engineer. He extended his hand for a handshake, then immediately felt stupid for assuming alien customs might include human gestures. She looked at his outstretched hand with what might have been amusement. I am Zarakath Voss, Acquisition Specialist of the Third Hegemony. And you, Marcus Chun, are precisely what I have been searching for. I'm sorry, what? Zarakath Voss stepped closer, close enough that Marcus could see tiny flecks of silver in her blue eyes, could smell something like ozone and honey emanating from her skin. Your species possesses a remarkable ability. You take things that are broken and you make them work again? You improvise solutions with inadequate resources. You maintain complex systems under impossible conditions. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We just call it engineering, ma'am. No, she shook her head, and her liquid hair cascaded in waves that seemed to ignore several laws of physics. What you call engineering is something far more rare and valuable than you understand. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, across hundreds of species and millions of worlds, there are perhaps a dozen races with your particular gift for maintenance and repair. I'm flattered, but you misunderstand. This is not a compliment. This is a claim of ownership. Marcus blinked. I'm sorry, what? Zarakath Voss smiled, revealing teeth that were too white and too sharp. Accept it, human. You belong to me. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Marcus felt his mouth open and close several times, but no sound came out. Of all the ways he'd imagined first contact might go, this particular scenario had never entered his wildest dreams or worst nightmares. I can't. What? Your species' talent for maintenance and repair is so rare that it has significant economic value in our galactic marketplace. I am authorized by the Third Hegemony to acquire such resources when they are discovered. You, Marcus Chun, are now property of the Hegemony and specifically assigned to my personal fleet. Marcus finally found his voice. Property? You can't just claim to own people. That's slavery. Slavery? Zarakath Voss tilted her head, considering the word. An interesting concept. In our civilization, ownership is not about bondage, but about optimal resource allocation. You will be well cared for, provided with excellent living conditions, and given access to technology beyond your current understanding. In exchange, you will maintain and repair our vessels. But I don't want to go with you. I have a life here, responsibilities. This crew depends on me to keep this station running. Yes, I observed that dependency during my approach. Your crew will be provided with automated maintenance systems to replace your functions. They will likely live more comfortably than they do now. Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. He was a maintenance engineer from Ohio who'd signed up for a routine posting to keep a remote research station operational. He wasn't equipped for galactic politics or alien abduction or whatever this was supposed to be. Look, Zara. Can I call you Zara? This is all very flattering, but you can't just claim ownership of people. Humans have rights, freedoms. We're not property to be bought and sold, rights? She seemed genuinely puzzled by the concept. You speak as if you have some choice in this matter. Your species hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel. Your technology is primitive by galactic standards. You exist at our tolerance, not by your own power. Marcus felt anger beginning to replace fear. Primitive? Lady, I've kept this station running for 3 years with nothing but spare parts and determination. I've jury-rigged solutions to problems that would have killed us all if I hadn't figured out how to fix them. I've made broken things work with nothing but hope and stubbornness. Yes, she said, and her smile grew wider. Exactly. That is why you are valuable. That is why you belong to me. I belong to myself. Zara Kethvos studied him for a long moment, her head tilted like a predator examining prey. You truly believe that, don't you? How charmingly naive. Marcus felt his jaw clench. It's not naive. It's human. Perhaps. We shall see how long your human concepts of autonomy serve you in the wider galaxy. She gestured toward the door with one elegant hand. Come, your new life begins now, and if I refuse? Refuse? She laughed, and the sound was like wind chimes made of silver bells. Oh, Marcus Chun, you still don't understand your situation. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is an acquisition. Marcus planted his feet firmly and crossed his arms over his chest. Then you'll have to drag me kicking and screaming, because I'm not going anywhere willingly. Zara Kethvosar,